Hey guys, it's the Whale coming at you with the second episode of Diving into Umi. I know that it is very long and overdue, but I figured, hey, it's better time than any to start episode two. The reason that it's taken so long is honestly because I have a couple of things going on in my private life, but regardless, I'm back on the grind, and here we are. So I've actually wanted to make a couple of episodes on a couple of different cards, discussing them more in depth. Sharks being one of them, but I already made a deck profile on Umi Shark or Kairushin, Shark Control, whatever the case may be, combo, which I feel like I stated my opinions on that deck fairly okay, or at least the shark archetype. If not, if you guys want to actually hear more in depth, by all means, you just leave a comment down below so I know what to make for episode three, even though I already kind of have an idea of what card I want to talk about. Regardless, if you guys have any card discussions or anything that you feel can benefit Kairushin control or Umi control, please leave it in the comment section down below and I'll check it out. Like always, I'm going to be talking about the cards that I am going to be focusing on in this episode, which are going to be the legendary fisherman cards. Okay, their pros and their cons, and I'm also going to be giving a sample deck list. Um, so let's get right to it. First of all, legendary fisherman, right? It's the iconic Mako Tsunami, just card, right? It's as retro Yu-Gi-Oh as you can possibly be. We all have memories. If you guys are clicking this video and even staying this long into it, you guys are probably a Mako fan like I am, or at least a Umi fan like I am, right? So just get straight into it, okay? Legendary Fisherman 1, there's 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3. Right, the legendary fisherman is obviously the first rendition, right, before essentially got retrained and all that sort of thing, right? So it states, while Umi's on the field, this card is unaffected by spell effects and cannot be targeted for attacks, but does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. Wow, what a card. You just don't hear those type of effects anymore in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially the does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly card. That is crazy. It is a level 5 water warrior, 1850 attack, 600 defense. So yeah, the stats are not very good. But this card can potentially see play in the side deck, which I have very much utilized in my own personal side deck. And you guys might be thinking, what's so good about this card? I mean, honestly, well, the fact that it is unaffected by spell effects and cannot be targeted by attacks, meaning that there's a certain deck out there that is a pain to deal with, and this card just kind of deals with it, being Runic. The fact that Runic is basically a spell-intensive deck, and then you have Legendary Fisherman out there, well, it just states that they can't really do anything, right? It's a monster that they can get off of the board, and you can just keep it up and boost it up. It goes all the way to 2050 with Umi on the field. So, as many of you guys know, with Legendary Ocean, it states that this card is always treated as Umi, and all water monsters on the field gain 200 attack defense, plus reduce the level of all water monsters in both players' hands and fields by 1. Meaning that if you activate a Legendary Ocean, Fisherman becomes a level 4, making it normal summonable. But still, you're wasting a normal summon on a card that's very subpar. I would say requires a good meta, if even, but still, for your retro players out there that want to stay true and to the Mako, by all means run this card. But remember, you don't have to. This card is no longer necessary in the main deck for any type of Legendary Ocean or Umi deck. You might be asking why. Well, because of the release of the Legendary Fisherman 2, which is phase 2. Right, so now this card has way better stats. The artwork is just sick. I mean, look at it. I wish I could actually zoom in a little bit on it. The artwork is phenomenal. I think this is so sick. It is essentially Mako riding a orca, right? So yeah, it's a level 5, 2200 attack body, 1800 defense. So it's a lot better. Goes up to 24 with Legendary Ocean. Its effect states this card becomes a Legendary Fisherman while on the field or in the graveyard. Therefore, the old Legendary Fisherman is not needed. So that's always really good, right? And its effect could be technically considered better than the old one. It says that while Umi is on the field, this card is unaffected by other monster effects. So I guess it's okay. I guess. I mean, we don't really very much care for that, but whatever. Now, if this face-up card is destroyed by battle and leaves the field by battle or leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, while it's in its owner's control, you can add one level 7 water monster from your deck to your hand. Again, this card is subpar still. Why? Because there's not that many level 7 water monsters that you want to search out with Umi control, especially when Kairyu-Shin is already your boss monster of the deck. That's just the honest truth, right? The Kairyu-Shin just wins games all on its own. For the people that play this deck, nothing feels better than just dropping a Kairyu-Shin on a board full of monsters and letting your opponent just choose. Nothing. That being said, Kairyu-Shin is a level 5. Therefore, level 7, there's only really 2 searchable targets in this type of deck. But it's still not bad. If you want to stay true to it, you can. It becomes a Legendary Fisherman. It's unaffected by monster effects on the field while Umi's online, which, I mean, I guess it could come in handy, but again, not the best thing. Now, technically the main reason why you run, the Legendary Fisherman phase 2 and 3 is because of 3. 3 is technically the best one. I mean, look at this. Wow. So it is a level 7 monster. Okay. It's at 2500 attack, 2000 defense. With Umi, they both gains 200 attack, 200 defense. So it's a 27 and a 2200 body. Right. So it states cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by tributing a Legendary Fisherman, which this card is always treated as one on the field or in the graveyard. Okay. So you need to tribute it. Then it states, when this card is special summoned, you can banish all monsters your opponent controls. Also, this card cannot attack this turn. This effect right here is insane. This effect right here, it is crazy, crazy, crazy. Because it's just a complete, a one-sided nuke for your opponent. Because it says banish all monsters your opponent controls. It doesn't send them to the graveyard. It doesn't do anything. It just banishes. So, that being said, you just special summon out this bad boy and you have a non-targeting effect to just banish your opponent's monsters. That's pretty good in my opinion, right? And then it also has the effect continues, and it's still a pretty good effect. Cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. Also unaffected by spell and trap effects. So this right here is really, really good. This little wall of text, right? So I'm going to read it one more time. When this card is special summoned, you can banish all monsters your opponent controls, which is already a great effect. It just cannot attack the turn that it's summoned. But it also has cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, also unaffected by spell or trap card effects. That is so crazy. And you guys want to know the crazy part? The fact that you don't even need a Legendary Ocean to be online. Nothing in this card states Umi needs to be on the field, meaning that if you have a Legendary Fisherman and you were to tribute it bare without an Umi, you would still get all of these effects. The next effect states that once per turn, you can return as many of your opponent's banished cards as possible to their graveyards, right? So it doesn't come back to the field, which is good. And if you do the first battle damage your opponent takes this turn becomes doubled. Okay, so I would say this card is fairly okay. If I had to rate it, I would probably rate it like a 4 out of 10, just because you have to run the Legendary Fisherman cards. But I do know that there's a lot of Mako, fans out there and people that want to stay true to the deck, and just want to have fun with it. That's perfectly fine. That will love this. And again, this card just kind of wins games by itself because this card doesn't even need Umi on the field. It doesn't, and it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also unaffected by spell and trap cards effects. It's pretty insane, to be completely honest. The only bad part, though, is the fact that you can only use the special summon effect once. Meaning that you drop it on the board, you special summon it, and then you use its effect to banish, and then it just sits there. So it doesn't really do very much. But obviously with support and everything like that, it's still pretty good. I would say that if you're running this Legendary Fisherman engine in your Umi deck, you very much need to run Mega Fortress Whale. Mega Fortress Whale is almost like a Legendary Fisherman. It's just really good. The reason why it's good is because these little 3 cards right here just kind of coincide together, right? Number 1, Mega Fortress Whale is a level 7 water monster. Cool. So therefore, if Legendary Fisherman 2, something happens to it, you can add a level 7 water monster from your deck to your hand. You can add Mega Fortress Whale. Or you can add, obviously, Legendary Fisherman 3. But it also states, if Umi's on the field, you can activate this effect. Water monsters can attack directly this turn. That is obviously crazy. Okay, its attack is pretty good too, 2550. With Umi, 2750. Okay, during your opponent's battle phase, quick effect. You can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy it. That's already a really good effect. The only reason I try my best to not run it in my Umi control decks is because if you draw it, it's kind of sucks because there's no way to get it out of your hand except by using a jellyfish. And more than likely, you kind of want to use a jellyfish for Kairushin. But regardless, it's not the worst card in the world. And then its last effect that isn't really used in Kairushin decks too much unless you're running like General Raiho or something like that, which I can talk about as well. It also states its last effect that if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can either add to your hand or special summon 1 water monster from your deck or graveyard. So that's pretty good. Oh, 1 water warrior monster. I'm sorry if I skimmed past that. This is the part that most people don't use in their Kairushin decks. They just use the effect to attack directly, to attack for game, to attack for big damages, as well as the effect to pop a card, pop a monster, a face-up monster your opponent controls during their battle phase. But this last effect is really good in this type of build. Why? Because Legendary Fisherman can be brought out. So then Legendary Fisherman can, obviously inherently go into Legendary Fisherman 3. And obviously it kind of just leads to the win condition of this deck. So what do I think of these 2 Legendary Fisherman cards? Very subpar. I would not run them unless you're running a very fun build or a build true to Mako. All right. It can cheese out some cheeky wins, but still, there's just no point when Kairushin does everything just better than even Legendary Fisherman 3. So in my opinion, obviously just running pure Kairushin control is better, but still, like I said, to each their own and have fun with it. All right, so let's get to the deck profile real quick, just so you guys can see. I'm running 3 Kairushin. I live and breathe by this card. I love this card, obviously, okay? My favorite card in Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 Electric Jellyfish. It's your semi-Omni Negate, and it special summons out a water monster by dumping an Umi from the deck, field, or hand to the graveyard as cost. So meaning that if you were to dead draw, hypothetically, your Mega Fortress Whale, your Legendary Fisherman, you can still bring it out via Jellyfish, okay? So it's your semi-Omni Negate. Opponent activates an effect. You can negate that effect, either monster or spell card, and then gain 600 attack. Right, so it does become beefy, and it becomes a force to be reckoned with Mega Fortress Will, because they can attack directly. We're running the 1 Doom Kraken. I'm kind of obviously going back and forth on this card, but this card is just really good when it pops off. It really, really, truly is. It allows you to dodge a lot of things and obviously get back your Kairushin, your Electric Jellyfish, so that next turn your opponent already knows what's going to happen, so they better set up for it. One Maiden of the Aqua in this deck, probably not as needed, but still, I've realized that when I don't have it in the deck, I miss it, and when I have it in the deck, I hate it in the end because I draw it. But still, I feel like it genuinely is better safe to being sorry. Like if you open a Legendary Ocean and a Kyrushin and a Dark Reef, that's awesome. But more than likely, or like something of that resort, you're going to want to send a Legendary Ocean, and when you activate Kyrushin's Dark Reef, you have to send a Umi as cost to the graveyard, and then you're left with nothing on the field. So then you probably are going to special summon out the Maiden of Aqua plus another thing that mentions Umi. For the rest of the monsters, obviously the Mega Fortress Whale, this card is honestly pretty MVP in this type of deck, being the Legendary Fisherman deck, because it kind of just goes full circle. You kind of bring this out very easily through Dark Reef. Legendary Fisherman 2, I already went over it. It's a warrior level 5. You can also bring it out through Dark Reef. So it's just a really quick way to cheese it out. Legendary Fisherman 3, I wouldn't even call it the boss monster of the deck, but I mean, it's there, I guess. Ice Jade Tremora. So Ice Jade Tremora, by all means, you can run like Hand Traps, Droll and Lockbird, Ash Blossom if you guys want. Ice Jade Tremora is, again, in a fun build like this, I would say it's good. Why? Because you're kind of prone to having dead hands. In my testing videos, like in my testing of this deck in terms of like drawing hands, I believe like 7 of the hands that I got were playable and the other 3 were not playable. So Ice Jade Tremora, I wanted to add it because what I was seeing Legendary Fisherman, I was seeing Mega Fortress Whale, and I needed to kind of get something on the board. So Ice Jade Tremora just lets you discard it to special summon a water monster from the hand. And obviously it's a free discard to special summon out Kyrushin and still use your normal summon for Electric Jellyfish. Electric Jellyfish's effect can then special summon Legendary Fisherman 2 or Mega Fortress Whale from your hand, and you already have 3 monsters on the board. One Gameciel, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. I mean, I think that this is a staple in most water decks. You don't have to run this card. If you don't run this card, then you don't have to run the Ice Barriers, but I still think you should. It's a pretty phenomenal card in this in Umi decks. And then the one vanilla Giga Gaga Gigo, Terra King Salmon, whatever you really want. Honestly, I just kind of run it just because in a deck like this, it's more fun. And I love Giga Gaga Gigo. For the spells, obviously, we're running your 4, 5, 6 Legendary Oceans. Umis, of course, you need this to play the game. So please keep that in mind. I've always been a fan of 2 Sea Stealth 2s. I think it's really good, except in the Shark variant. The Shark variant doesn't really need Sea Stealth 2 at 2. You can use it at 1. 3 Fish Sonar. This card is exceptionally well in this because you're not just searching out, your Kyrushin all the time or your Electric Jellyfish. You also could be searching out your Legendary Fisherman, especially Legendary Fisherman 3. So please keep that in mind. And you get a free special summon of a vanilla that is pretty beefy, a 2650 beefy. 3 Pots of Prosperity. Obviously, it's better in this deck. 3 Dark Ruler No Mores. A lot of players don't play this card in Umi, but again, I am a big believer that even going turn 1, yes, you're just going to be dropping Kyrushin and passing, but again, Dark Ruler is just such a fantastic card, especially going turn 2, because you can activate it, drop Kyrushin, or activate Umi, drop Kyrushin, and your opponent just chooses. You're not going to be going for big damages in this deck. You have to kind of set up your board before you do that. So Dark Ruler just seems to help, and I do believe it's mandatory, at least in all my Kyrushin decks. When I don't play, I have tried variants where I don't play Dark Ruler no more, and I've maybe played a couple of more trap cards or whatever here and there, or maybe a couple of hand traps, and I can say that I do miss it because modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Can play through a lot nowadays, so I'd rather just let my opponent pop off and then just Dark Ruler their board and normal summon Kyrushin. And to me, Dark Ruler will always be a mandatory 3 of in Kyrushin builds. 2 Foolish Burial. This is for the 2 Ice Barriers. Ice Barrier is fantastic, allowing you to dodge Droll and Lockbird, essentially. Lets you send a level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to your graveyard, then add a water monster from your graveyard to your hand. This can search out your Ocean Dragon Lord. This can search out your Legendary Fisherman's. Okay. And yeah, it's pretty good. Not bad at all. 3 sea stealth attack. This is just good, especially in this type of deck because I feel like you're running a higher monster count with higher levels. So we do have obviously the 3 Kairusians, the Mega Fortress Whale, the 1 Fisherman 2, the 1 Fisherman 3, and the Giga Gaga Gigo, which allows it to get the second effect at the start of the damage step. If a water monster whose original level is 5 or higher battles an opponent's monster, destroy that opponent's monster. So it does get that construct effect, but obviously I still think this card is insane. But just Mega Fortress Whale and like a couple of your big bodies, that's pretty much game, because even Mega Fortress Whale can attack, so you'll have 2750 on board. More than likely you'll have a 2650 on board. That's already like over 4k damage. Maybe a Kairusian that would be on 22, that's 6k, and then if you have like anything else like an electric jellyfish, that's already game. 2 Dark Reefs. Dark Reef is a fantastic card. It starts off your engine. Honestly, 3 always seems so tempting because I love seeing this. It's just one less card to search. But after turn 1, you don't really care very much for it. But essentially, just send a face-up Umi you control to the graveyard as cost. Special summon up to 2 monsters from your hand or deck that mention Umi or are water normal monsters in defense. Then if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon any number of level 6 or lower water normal monsters from your deck. So essentially it gets you your other Giga Gaga Gigo, as well as it lets you set up a Mega Fortress Whale and like a Legendary Fisherman or a Electric Jellyfish, Kairusian, Doom Kraken. It lets you do anything because your entire deck says Umi, except Gameciel and Ice Shade Tremora. And 2 Gozen Match. This is for when your opponent decides that he wants to play Lava Golem and you just laugh because you can't tribute my stuff. You can only tribute one. You can only control 1 attribute, and last time I checked, your entire main deck is water. That is it for the main deck. Side deck, obviously, it's just for fun. Extra deck is obviously just for fun. But I did want to go over the Legendary Fisherman cards because a lot of people were like, asking me, hey, what do I think? I should add Legendary Fisherman or whatever. I think those cards are very subpar. I think that you are throwing inconsistency to honestly already an inconsistent deck that needs a lot of tools before you set up. But regardless, if you're just going out there to go have fun, like you very much should, then I do believe that this can probably be played a little bit, So regardless, guys, as always, if you guys have any questions or any cards that you guys want me to review for this archetype, please just leave a comment down below and I'll do my research and I'll build a deck and I'll do some test stands. Yeah, whale out.